Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Today, we're heading back to 19th century China
Ooh.
to explore the Taiping Rebellion.
All right.
Now, you might already know some of the basics about this,
Mm-hmm.
but we're going to be going way beyond just the battles and dates.
Okay.
We're using academic papers, historical data.
Wow.
We even have some first-hand accounts to really uncover the rebellion's lasting impact.
Sounds fascinating.
It's really like an archaeological dig,
Okay.
but for ideas.
I like that.
What's so fascinating is we often think of rebellions as these purely destructive events.
Yeah, you think of like chaos and,
Right, just destruction and death.
Exactly.
But the Taiping Rebellion, while definitely devastating,
Yeah.
also led to some really unexpected changes.
Interesting.
And those changes actually reverberated through Chinese society
Okay.
long after the fighting stopped.
Hmm.
We're going to be looking at how it reshaped China's finances, how it shook up local power structures,
Oh.
and even how it influenced how ethnic identities formed.
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
It is a lot.
It is.
We're talking about a period of just immense upheaval.
Yeah.
You've got Hong Juquan,
Mm-hmm.
who claimed to be the brother of Jesus,
Right.
leading this massive uprising against the Qing dynasty.
And it's huge.
Millions of people died, agriculture was crippled,
Wow.
and the image of China as this unstoppable giant was seriously challenged.
Yeah, really shook things up.
But get this,
What?
out of all that chaos
Yeah.
came these surprising innovations.
Huh. Okay. I'm interested.
Really the most mind-blowing is the birth of the Legion.
The Legion.
Yeah, imagine this middle of this war.
Right.
A whole new way of taxing pops up.
Okay.
It wasn't a planned reform or anything.
Gotcha.
It was a desperate scramble for cash.
Interesting.
So before the rebellion, the Qing dynasty relied heavily on land taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty old school system.
Yeah.
And had limited funds.
Okay.
But then the war hits, and suddenly they're just bleeding money.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So local officials are panicking.
Of course.
They need to find funds fast.
Mm-hmm.
So they start experimenting with this new tax
A new tax.
on commercial goods,
Okay.
the Legion.
The Legion.
And one official,
Yeah.
Lei Xian,
Okay.
makes this really bold argument.
What's that?
He says that the Legion is actually more steady and permanent
More steady and permanent
than the traditional land tax
than land tax. How?
because trade is constantly flowing.
Mm.
He says it's practically infinite,
Okay.
unlike land,
Yeah.
which is a fixed resource.
I see his point.
So basically, he's saying tax is stuff that's always on the move.
Tax the stuff that's moving. Yeah.
Did it actually work, though?
That's the question, isn't it?
That is the question.
Well, researchers have actually dug into this.
Oh, wow.
They've looked at prefecture level data
Okay.
and they found a clear link.
Okay.
The more intense the fighting during the Taiping Rebellion,
Yeah.
the more Legion stations popped up in a region.
So they're like directly correlated.
It seems like it.
It's like the war forced them to modernize their tax system.
Yeah. Wow.
Talk about unintended consequences.
Totally.
This Legion tax,
Mm.
born out of desperation,
Right.
becomes this unexpected engine for change.
That's pretty cool.
Think about it.
Okay.
The Legion offered greater growth potential.
Uh-huh.
It was cheaper to collect.
Okay.
And it arguably paved the way for China's later industrialization.
Wow.
Some even argue it nudged China towards more representative politics.
Hold on, really?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, considering where it came from.
I know.
A wartime stopgap,
The rebels wanted to tear down the system,
right?
but they inadvertently gave it the tools to become stronger,
Mm-hmm.
more modern
And more modern. Yeah.
in the long run.
That's a fascinating paradox.
Like they accidentally kicked off a chain reaction of progress.
It really is.
But the changes weren't just limited to taxes. Remember how the Qing dynasty prided itself on its centralized military?
Yeah, they're big, strong military.
Well, the Taiping Rebellion really threw a wrench in that.
Oh, how so?
When you've got a rebellion of this scale,
Yeah.
suddenly your fancy centralized army isn't enough.
Right, they'd be spread thin.
They were stretched so thin,
Makes sense.
struggling to maintain control.
Uh-huh.
And this power vacuum emerged in a lot of areas.
No, so what happened?
Well, nature abhors a vacuum, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So local elites stepped up.
Okay.
They started organizing militias
Interesting.
to defend their own communities.
Oh, wow. So they had to take things into their own hands.
They did.
Oh,
And these weren't just ragtag groups.
okay.
They were actually pretty effective in pushing back against the rebels.
Wow, so they were actually a force to be reckoned with.
They were.
That's amazing.
But this shift
yeah.
in who held the weapons
Right.
had huge consequences for the balance of power in China.
I bet.
It's like a historical domino effect.
Huh.
Rebellion weakens central authority.
Okay.
Local elites rise up.
Yeah.
Bam.
That what?
The whole power structure gets reshuffled.
That's a great way to put it.
And the king,
Yeah.
they never fully regained that level of control
Really?
that they had before the rebellion.
Huh.
We actually saw a similar pattern
Oh, yeah.
during the White Lotus Rebellion
Yeah.
a few decades earlier,
Right.
where the government also had to rely on these local militias.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
But the impact of the Taiping Rebellion
Yeah.
was way more significant,
That was a real turning point.
a real game changer.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
This is fascinating.
I know, right?
So much going on.
We're just getting started.
Okay, bring it on.
So we've got these local elites now,
Yeah.
armed and empowered,
Right.
operating in this, chaotic world.
Total chaos.
I can only imagine all the tension,
Oh, yeah.
all the shifting alliances.
Constantly shifting.
Must have been like a real-life Game of Thrones.
It really was.
Powerful families, warlords, rebels,
Mm.
all vying for power,
Yeah.
making deals,
Breaking deals.
breaking deals,
Switching sides.
switching sides left and right,
You have the role.
throw in some vendettas,
Right.
some religious fervor,
Right.
and you've got this recipe for some seriously tangled relationships.
Definitely angled.
Which brings us to this fascinating idea
Okay.
of relational rebellion.
Relational rebellion.
Yeah, it's this idea of how these shifting loyalties
Okay.
and rivalries
Yeah.
determined who ended up as a rebel
Mm-hmm.
and who stayed loyal to the king.
Interesting.
It really highlights just how messy history can be.
For sure.
You might assume that people were just driven by ideology,
Yeah, you'd think so.
but often it really boiled down to pragmatism.
Survival.
Yeah, survival.
Just navigating all these crazy relationships.
You've got elites who started out fighting alongside the king,
Hmm.
and then suddenly they
Cool.
switch sides,
Oh, wow.
and they launched their own rebellions.
Talk about a plot twist.
What would cause such a dramatic flip?
Well, put yourself in the shoes of an elite back then.
Okay.
The king are weak.
Yeah.
Your local rivals are gaining power.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're worried about losing your land.
Losing your influence all of a
Okay.
sudden
Siding with the rebels.
doesn't seem so crazy.
Doesn't seem so crazy anymore.
It becomes a question of who can offer you the best deal,
Right.
who can give you the most protection,
Exactly.
maybe even a chance to come out on top.
Self-preservation.
Pure
You
self-preservation.
gotta do what you gotta do.
The sources are full of examples
Oh,
that bring this idea to life.
like what?
One that really stands out is the case of Miao Pailan.
Mia Pai.
He was a militia leader
Okay.
who initially helped the king fight the Nin Rebellion.
So he was on their side?
He was.
Yeah.
And then guess what?
He switched sides.
He launches his own rebellion.
Wow, what a move.
Talk about a power move.
No kidding.
So it wasn't just about these abstract ideals
Mm.
or these grand narratives.
Right, it was real.
It was about personal ambition,
Shifting alliances
making tough choices.
in a world turned upside down.
Now, remember how we talked about those Muslim uprisings
Yeah, those were happening at the same time, right?
happening alongside the Taiping Rebellion?
Crazy.
This is where we really need to be careful about oversimplifying things.
Right. It's not all one big thing.
Because assuming that all of them had the same root causes
Yeah,
would be like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
doesn't work.
It just wouldn't work.
Nope.
Each region had its own mix of issues
Uh-huh.
driving those uprisings.
Right.
Our sources make it very clear that these so-called religious conflicts
Mhm.
were actually deeply intertwined with political and economic factors.
Oh, so there's more to it than meets the eye.
There's always more to the story.
Always.
And get this,
What?
the Muslim uprisings in different provinces
Okay.
played out in radically different ways.
Oh, wow. So different regions, different stories.
Completely different stories.
Okay, I'm really curious now.
So paint us a picture
Mhm.
of these different uprisings.
All right, so let's start with Yunnan.
Okay, Yumnan.
The uprising there was initially fueled by these religious tensions,
Okay.
led by a guy named Du Wengxiu.
Duengxiu.
He assembled this multi-ethnic coalition.
Multi-ethnic.
But here's the twist.
Okay.
As the uprising gained steam,
Yeah.
it actually became less about ethnicity
Oh, interesting.
and more about just pure power.
Wow.
Du Wengxiu even started incorporating Han Chinese forces.
Han Chinese forces
Oh, so
into his ranks.
That's fascinating.
It is.
So the original religious grievances
Yeah.
got overshadowed by these more pragmatic concerns.
It became more about strategy
About survival.
than strict religious divide.
So in a way, it kind of evolved.
It did evolve, yeah.
Over time.
That's so interesting.
Now contrast that
Okay.
with the uprising in Shaanxi.
Shaanxi, okay.
This one was a much more brutal ethnic conflict,
Oh, wow.
driven by these horrific events like the Kunming massacre.
Which created this sharp divide between the Han Chinese and the Hui Muslims.
So that one was much more divided.
Much more divided.
Long ethnic lines.
Similar time period.
Yeah.
Similar label.
Of Muslim uprising.
But completely different dynamics driving the conflict.
It really shows you can't just look at the label.
You can't just rely on the label.
You got to dig deeper.
You've got to dig deeper.
Absolutely.
And then we have the Gansu uprising,
Gansu.
which was sparked by these internal conflicts
internal conflicts.
within the Muslim community itself,
Within the Muslim community, okay.
specifically between different Sufi brotherhoods.
Sufi brotherhoods, what are those?
So even within the Muslim community, you had these power struggles and rivalries
Oh, wow.
that played a role in the rebellion.
That's so interesting.
The Qing dynasty had shown favoritism towards certain Sufi orders.
Oh, so they were playing favorites.
They were,
And that caused resentment.
which ultimately fueled the uprising.
Wow. So even those internal dynamics are important.
Really
And
important.
understanding what happened.
Yeah,
It's amazing how much we're uncovering here.
I know. It's mind-blowing.
Every layer we peel back,
There's more complexity.
it's like an onion.
We're challenging all these assumptions we had about this period.
Totally.
We've got this new tax system,
Yeah, the
born out of necessity,
Right.
local militias reshaping the balance of power, Muslim uprisings that really defy categorization.
It's a lot to process.
It's a lot.
But it's so fascinating.
It is.
I'm really enjoying this deep dive.
Me too.
It's amazing how much there is to learn.
And we're just scratching the surface.
Right.
The Taiping Rebellion and its aftermath are such a great example of how history
Yeah.
is rarely neat and tidy.
Definitely not.
It's full of twists and turns and unintended consequences.
It can completely reshape entire societies.
Exactly.
Okay, so before we dive into what all this means for China,
And for us today,
right?
let's pause for a second.
Oh, okay.
Just let all of this sink in. What's jumping out at you from all this information?
That's a good question.
What are your initial takeaways from this wild ride?
This wild ride through 19th century China.
Yeah.
Right.
Honestly, it's just amazing how, like, one single event, as chaotic and destructive as this was,
Yeah,
could have so many ripple effects.
it's true.
Really makes you realize history isn't just about these dates and battles.
Right.
It's about these chain reactions
Mm-hmm.
that can totally reshape entire nations.
Yeah, it's not just the event itself.
Yeah.
It's everything that comes after.
Exactly.
Take the Legion tax.
That's it.
Started as this desperate attempt to fund a war, but it ended up modernizing their entire financial system.
Yeah.
It's a powerful example of how necessity can breed innovation,
I like that.
even if it comes from these unexpected sources.
Yeah, and it's not just economics.
Like-
the rise of those local militias,
Right.
the way that power shifted from the central government
Yeah.
to these regional players.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
I mean, those themes still resonate in China today.
They do.
It's like the ghosts of the Taiping Rebellion are still shaping the political landscape.
It's a reminder that the past never really disappears.
Right.
It leaves these fingerprints on everything that follows,
And then there are the Muslim uprisings.
each one with its own unique story
Yeah, they force us to confront all these complexities
of identity
of religious conflict.
and how political and economic motivations can get mixed in.
It's a lesson in empathy,
It is.
in understanding all the historical forces that shape these events.
It's recognizing
And recognizing
that even the people who lived through these times
yeah,
didn't always have easy answers.
or unwavering loyalties.
Right, they were just trying to make sense of things,
They were doing their best.
just like us.
It makes you wonder about the choices that we make today
Oh, yeah.
and what kind of unintended consequences they might have down the line.
It's humbling.
It is really humbling.
So we've explored all these fascinating aspects of the rebellion.
Yeah.
But what does it all mean for us?
Right here in the 21st century,
Where can we learn from this?
from something that happened so long ago.
That's the big question.
It highlights the importance of being adaptable,
Mhm.
innovative.
Especially during a crisis.
The Qing dynasty,
Yeah.
despite all its flaws,
Right.
they had to adapt their systems
To survive.
to survive.
It's a lesson that resonates today.
It does.
As we face our own global challenges,
Climate change, political polarization,
we need to embrace new ideas,
challenge the status quo.
find solutions in those unexpected places.
Like religion.
Right. Came out of nowhere.
And pave the way for progress.
And the rise of those local militias shows the power of local knowledge.
Local initiative.
The government struggled to contain the rebellion.
They were too far removed.
But the locals,
The people closest to the problem.
they knew what to do.
They were able to mobilize.
And defend their community.
Yes. It's a powerful argument for empowering those local communities.
For sure.
Recognizing that solutions
Often come from the ground up.
not the top down,
We need to find that balance.
between central authority
And the flexibility of local actors.
and the Muslim uprisings.
Yeah, what about those?
They teach us about the danger of oversimplification and the importance of nuance.
Right. We can't just lump everything together.
Yep.
Each situation is unique.
Absolutely.
We need to think critically.
Question our assumptions.
Resist those easy answers.
History is messy. It is. It's full of contradictions.
Unexpected turns.
Understanding it requires empathy,
Intellectual humility.
a willingness to embrace ambiguity.
Well said.
So as we wrap up this deep dive
Yeah.
into the Taiping Rebellion,
It's been quite a journey.
I think we're both left with a sense of awe
I have to
at the sheer scale of this event,
the impact it had.
but we're also left with a sense of responsibility.
Oh, how so?
History isn't just something that happened in the past.
It's a living force that continues to shape our present.
By understanding the legacies of the Taiping Rebellion,
Yeah.
we can gain a deeper understanding of the world we live in today.
We can see those patterns
The connection.
that link us to the past.
We hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity.
And inspired you to keep exploring history.
To leave you with a final thought,
Okay, hit us with it.
how did the rise of local power during the Taiping Rebellion
Yeah,
impact China's long-term trajectory as a centralized state?
that's a good one.
It's a question historians are still debating,
The answer might hold some clues to understanding not just China's past.
but also its future.
So keep asking those questions.
Keep digging deeper.
And keep those deep dives going.
We'll see you on the next one.